Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and we have got part 4 here of our roster breakdown series going through the entire SEC with the Florida Gators here today. So John Sumrall taking over here in year 1 after the Gators let go of Billy Napier last season. So there's a ton of new on this roster. Naturally, coaching change, so you have guys portal out, you bring in your own guys portaling in. But roster retention really is the story of this Florida team for me. They kept some of their biggest stars, which arguably should be almost count as transfer portal wins in this day and age. So we'll go through the whole roster today, highlight obviously all those stars who did stay, but also talk about some of the position battles that we're going to have, starting off with quarterback here. Tramell Jones, one of the quarterbacks for the Gators. He was with the program last year. He's a redshirt freshman. He played in 2 games last year, completed 21 of his 35 passes for 191 yards and 2 scores. He was a 4-star guy in the class of 2025, and he's the quarterback who looked better during the spring game. Now, why that matters is because that's what fans have access to. Of all the spring practices, they have access to the spring game. So they watch that and they think, oh, Tramell's the better quarterback. That's not necessarily the truth because Aaron Philo is also in that room. He's a redshirt sophomore who is transferring in from Georgia Tech. He played in 3 last season, started 1. Now, he was Buster Faulkner's backup quarterback in that system last year at Georgia Tech. Faulkner's more familiar with him. Philo is more familiar with that scheme. He was 21 of 28 passing last year for 373 yards. So he, in my mind, is who the coaching staff expects to be the starter. They brought him in from Georgia Tech with his offensive coordinator being like, okay, we think that Philo is going to be the guy, but they need him to go grab it. So he hasn't gone and grabbed that job yet, but I do believe that the expectation, at least internally, is that Aaron Philo will be the starting quarterback, but either guy I do believe is well enough equipped to run this offense given the weapons that they have, especially at running back, starting off here with Jaden Ball, who might be the best running back in the SEC, maybe even in the country. As a junior coming in this year, he's looking to have his best year yet. He was all SEC second team last season. He was freshman all SEC in 2024. Started all 12 games last year, carried the ball 220 times for over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. Also caught 31 passes for 185 yards and 2 more scores. I mean, Jaden Ball, man, you just watch him play. It's obvious. It's obvious how good he is. He's such a physical runner, so durable. You can give him the ball 20, 25 times a game, and he just won't slow down ever. And they were able to fend off. He never entered the portal, but Texas was after him. Like, that was well reported that Texas was going after Jaden Ball. John Sumrall was able to keep him, which was a massive win for the Gators offense. And then behind Jaden Ball, you got Duke Clark, who is a redshirt freshman. He played in just 4 games last year in redshirt. It only carried the ball 6 times, but he's developed very, very well. He was a blue chip kid. He can give some more contributions this season. They also portaled in 2 more running backs. One is Evan Pryor, who is a redshirt senior coming in from Cincinnati. He started 6 games last year for the Bearcats, carried the ball 76 times for over 500 yards and 3 scores. And they also bring in London Montgomery, who was an East Carolina transfer as a redshirt junior. He started 8 games last year for Carolina, carried the ball 157 times, 737 yards, and a score. He had 437 yards after contact, did London Montgomery. So he'll be more of that bruiser coming off the bench, whereas Evan Pryor might be a little more fluid, a little more out wide, like wide running as a back. So the running back room for the Gators is pretty deep. Those 2 transfers coming in are incredibly important to just take a few carries off of Jaden Ball's plate game by game. But I'm not sure there's a deeper room on this Florida team, maybe not in the conference, than the Gators wide receiver room. Starting off here with Dallas Wilson, who is a redshirt freshman, the former 5-star guy from last year, injury-riddled season in 2025. He started every game he was healthy, only had 12 catches on the year because of all that missed time, like I said. Had 174 yards and 3 scores. He had that incredible game against Texas when Florida knocked off the Longhorns. His size, his talent, it is so evident. You only need to watch like 2 snaps of this guy's tape, and you realize that he is an absolute superstar. So he'll be, as long as he's healthy, the guy for Florida out wide. But the second guy is Renell Brown III, who is now entering his true sophomore season. He was freshman All-SEC last year, another 5-star recruit in the class of 2025. He was able to play 10 games last year. He had his own injuries, but he had 40 catches for 512 yards. Both of those numbers led Florida last year, and he was also an electric guy in the returning game. And Florida transfers in Eric Singleton from Auburn, but why this is more important is because he was at Georgia Tech with Buster Faulkner before that. So he's a senior this year, started all 12 games last year with Auburn, had 58 catches for 534 yards and 3 scores. He was freshman All-American back at Tech, back in that scheme. So adding Singleton is absolutely massive for this offense because it's a slot receiver that Faulkner's comfortable with, and you can really scheme up a ton of ways to get him more involved and have him take attention off those returning stars. Three other names in that receiver room that are worth keeping an eye on. Micah Mays is a redshirt junior who is transferring in from Wake Forest. He played in 10 games for the Demon Deacons last year, started 4 of them, had 18 catches for over 300 yards and 2 scores. He flashed in the spring game a lot. He was wide, he was making downfield plays, catching long touchdowns. He could be a massive name in this receiver room for the Gators this year. Also, Bailey Stockton, who is a redshirt junior, transferring in from Georgia Tech again, played in all 11 games last year for the Yellow Jackets, 21 catches for over 200 yards. He graded out very, very well on those reps he was able to get. So if his role expands this year, expect that to keep going up. Expect him to be a very valuable contributor. And also TJ Abrams, who was a redshirt sophomore. He played in 10 games last year, got 1 start due to injuries ahead of him, had 13 grabs for over 200 yards. He's just a speedy guy who provides very good depth. So that receiver room in Florida, I didn't even mention multiple names who I do believe could get some good time. But that Gators receiver room is something really, really scary. Moving on to the tight ends, another Georgia Tech transfer here in Luke Harpring, who is a redshirt sophomore. He played in all 13 last year for the Yellow Jackets, had 13 grabs for 158 yards. And Florida also has Amir Jackson in that tight end room, who is a redshirt sophomore, played in 11 games last year, only had 3 grabs for 29 yards. He was tight end 3 last year behind Hayden Hansen, Tony Livingston. He's an elite athlete. He was rated very highly as a basketball recruit too. Even if he's not a pass catching tight end, you just got to get Amir Jackson on the field and he will make a difference for you. So I'm really excited to see how Sumrall and that staff use Jackson in their first year. Going through the offensive line now, at offensive tackle, they transferred in Egan Boyer, who is a redshirt sophomore from Penn State. He followed Phil Trotwine, who the new offensive line coach within the Lions, now with the Gators. He played in 8 games, started 1 last year. His only start was in that bowl game against Clemson. And then returning at the other O-tackle spot is Caden Jones, who is a redshirt junior. He played in all 12 games last year, started after week 3, had 541 snaps under his belt added last fall. Moving inside to the guard position, they return Nejay Harris, who is a senior, started at left guard in all 12 games last year for Florida, had a 74.2 pass blocking grade. And at the other guard spot is another Penn State transfer in TJ Shanahan Jr. He's a redshirt junior. He had 5 starts, played all 13 at guard last season, committed 0 penalties, and only allowed 1 sack, and that was in that bowl game against the Clemson Tigers. And then at center, another Georgia Tech guy here in Harrison Moore, who is a junior. He played in 11 games and started 8 last year for the Yellow Jackets, totaled 682 snaps last fall, and he anchored that elite Georgia Tech offensive line. So Florida's O-line is full of talent. It's also full of 3 guys who weren't with the program last year. Now, 2 of them were from Shanahan's scheme, but if that's their advantage, it's ironically the returners' disadvantage. So we'll see how that O-line meshes. It was kind of a weak point, a point of emphasis for Sumrall after spring. We'll see how the offensive line comes together because that could be a big-time issue for this Gators. All those skill players they have, but if their O-line doesn't hold up, it can really hurt that offense. But moving to the defensive side of the ball now. Starting off with another massive retention from the portal, Jaden Woods, who did actually enter the portal, but then withdrew to come back to Gainesville. He is a true sophomore. He was freshman All-SEC last year, PFF All-Freshman team. He played in all 12 games, had 28 tackles, 3.5 sacks, a pick, and a fumble recovery. I mean, he's a superstar. You watch his tape, it's very clear how good he is. He was behind a few guys last year, which is why those numbers are a little bit lower than what you might expect from a quote-unquote superstar edge rusher. Jaden Woods is that guy, and he will expand on that role, be a feature guy this fall for the Gators. On the other edge is a transfer from Jacksonville State in 6'7", 303-pound Emmanuel Oyebadejo, who is a redshirt senior. Literally one of the biggest gets in the portal for Florida this offseason. He was first-team All-Conference USA last year, started all 14 games that Jackson State played, 41 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 6.5 TFLs. I'll say it again, 6'7", 303. So sure, he came from Jacksonville State. I don't care. Look at that size. Look at those numbers. Look at his pedigree. This guy's going to be a really, really good player for Florida. Some other guys in that edge room, KJ Ford, who's a true freshman. He was a 4-star in last year's cycle. Tons of excitement around him in Gainesville. And also Cameron James, who is a senior, 44 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and a forced fumble last year. He should be a really good piece among the other defensive end guys. Moving inside to defensive tackle, Joseph Mbachu, who is a true sophomore. He played 9 games last year as a freshman. He's back in Gainesville. He had 11 tackles in a TFL last year. And another returner is also Brandon Bett, Brendan Best, excuse me, a redshirt junior who played in all 12 games last year, had a run defense grade of 76.9, total 39 tackles, 4 TFLs, and 3 sacks. So you return those 2 D tackles, but they also bring in DK Kalu at that spot, who is a redshirt junior coming in from Baylor. He had played in 8 games, started 6 for the Bears last year, had 10 tackles and half a tackle for loss. They also returned Jeremiah McLeod, who is a true sophomore, played in 11 games last season, had 13 tackles, and also half a tackle for loss. Moving on to this linebacker room for Florida, which I think could be one of the best on that defense. Starting off with Miles Graham, the leader of that room, of the whole defense really, who's a junior, started every game last year for Florida, had 76 tackles, 2 sacks, 7 TFLs, and 4 pass breakups. I mean, he is the anchor. He's the quarterback of that defense. He'll be an absolute superstar again this year. But spelling him is Aaron Childs, who was also a junior. He played in every game last year, had 52 tackles, 2.5 TFLs, and half a sack. So those numbers are just like a little bit below Miles Graham just because of how much more Graham is involved. But Aaron Childs is a heat-seeking missile. He's an incredible player there to be Miles Graham's number 2 at linebacker there. But some other guys in that LB room. Jaden Robinson is a senior. He started all 12 games last year for the Gators. Had 50 tackles, 4 TFLs, 2 sacks, and 3 pass breakups. They also have Miles Johnson back there, who is a sophomore. He was just on special teams last year, but he'll elevate to that linebacker spot this season. And going back to the secondary now, Dijon Johnson is back at corner. He is a redshirt junior. He started all 4 games last year that he was healthy for, but injury cut it short, and he was able to redshirt last season. So in 2024, back to his last full year, he had 16 tackles and 2 pass breakups, but he's a very good lockdown corner. He can shut down half that field easily. They also have Ben Hanks, who redshirted last year as a true freshman. He was a 5-star guy. Only played in 3 games and got 1 start last season, but had 2 pass breakups and a pick. And they also bring back another former 5-star in Cormani McLean, who was at Colorado originally, came over to the Gators before the 2024 season, and he's really been growing into his role. He played in 10 games last year, started 6, had 18 tackles, a TFL, a pick, and a pass breakup. Cormani, I think this could be the year where he really jumps and becomes a superstar in that Florida secondary. They also have Javari Flowers back there, who is a sophomore, played in 12 games last year, started just 2, had 17 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and half a tackle for loss. And then backing up now here to the safety room, they got Bryce Thornton coming back, who is a senior, started in 11 games last season, had 56 tackles, 2 fumble recoveries, a pick, 6 pass breakups, a sack. One of those fumble recoveries was a scoop and score in the opener against LIU. And they transfer in Cam Dooley from Kentucky, who is a junior. He played in all 12 for the Wildcats last year, started 3 of them. He had only allowed 80 yards over 212 coverage snaps last year, which is elite. Gave up no touchdowns. So he's very reliable as a cover safety back there, which the Gators have kind of been searching for in the past few years. Other guys in that safety room, Drake Stubbs, who is a true sophomore. He played in 7 games last year, mainly on special teams, only racked up 3 tackles, but he was also a 5-star guy in last year's recruiting class, so expect his role to really elevate this year as he keeps developing as a player. And also DJ Coleman, who is a senior transfer coming in from Baylor. He started all but 1 game for the Bears last year, had 46 tackles, 6.5 TFLs, 4 pass breakups, 2 picks, and a forced fumble. And then down to the only player who John Sumrall brought with him from Tulane, it is the kicker, Patrick Durkin. He is a redshirt sophomore coming in from the Green Wave, was 25 of 28 on field goals last year and 41 of 42 on extra points. So that is the Florida Gators roster right there. I mean, it's the same deal as it was last season, and really most seasons under Billy Napier. There is so much talent. It's the Florida Gators. There's a ton of blue chip guys, 4- and 5-star players on this roster. The question is, can they actually go out there and win games? Can they be a great team? Can they not just be a bunch of good football players? Can they be a great football team? So, I mean, Sumrall has been saying it kind of all offseason long, like, he does have high hopes for this team. He knows what he has, but he's also well aware, like, this is probably not a 1-year turnaround. It is like turning around a cruise liner, he said. It's not like turning around a little boat. It takes a while. You got to get everything right. So we'll see how the Gators look this fall. There is tons of individual talent, but so much of it relies on that offensive line meshing well together with how many new faces, a new O-line coach. So we'll see how that pans out early on in the fall. But if you have been enjoying all this college football preview content and you're ready for your team's roster breakdown, I'll have Georgia's coming out tomorrow. We're just going alphabetically here, but subscribe to me here and follow me on Twitter. I'll be doing college football stuff all summer long ahead of the season. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I've been Will Thomas, and I will see you next time.